Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mountainside Podcast. Our guest for this episode is Colorado native Ben Anderson. He's the founder of Icelantic Skis, based right here in Golden, Colorado. I really enjoyed sitting down with Ben and learning the history and what Icelantic Skis is about. It's much more than just your average ski manufacturing company, and you'll see why after listening to this episode. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I can't wait to do it again. Ben Anderson, Happy New Year, brother.
Happy New Year to you, too.
Man, thanks for coming in, man. It's great to have an Evergreen native here. I'm super stoked on that, because I feel like we share a lot of the same values. And, this whole thing's about raising some awareness for where we live. And not only where we live, I mean, the Rocky Mountain region altogether, right? I mean, all the way up into Montana, Wyoming, everywhere's seeing an influx right now.
Huge.
So I really appreciate you coming in and taking the time out to hang out with us. But what's good, man? What do you got going on? You have a good Christmas and all that?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me. It feels good to come down here and support this vision. So it's really, awesome, my pleasure. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. But yeah, holidays were good. Just kind of hung out with the fam, which was nice. It's like I have a big family. There's 5 kids. So it's like all 7 of us got to get together for the first time in a while. So that felt really good just to hang out with them and just kind of relax.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest or youngest in that?
Yeah,
You're the oldest in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm the oldest. I have a brother, John, who he lives out in L.A., and then sister Sarah here in Evergreen, actually. She just moved back. And then the youngest 2 are twins. So it was went from 3 to 5.
Shit, yeah. In a hurry, huh?
I still tell them they weren't an accident every birthday.
Well, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's the best part. I actually just getting back from North Carolina and spent some time in the Smoky Mountains up there around Asheville, and it's fucking awesome there, man.
Oh,
it's a good spot to spend Christmas.
Yeah.
Although it's the coldest it's ever been there, man.
Really?
It was like when I went this time, I don't know, it was just a cold front.
Yep.
Snowed on Christmas there,
Nice.
like Christmas Eve into Christmas. It was perfect, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We were talking, my girlfriend lives out in Raleigh, and she went back a little bit ago with her dad, and they were hanging out in Asheville, and gosh, I guess it's beautiful. Yeah. I really want to get back there sometime.
No, it's cool. It's different. I mean, it's not the Rockies by any means, but
yeah,
for being on the East Coast or close to the East Coast, it's pretty rad. It's a good spot. I mean, we have a lot of the same breweries and stuff. Like Fat Tire's got a brewery there in Asheville.
I think
it's kind of got that scene.
Oscar Blues too. Somewhere down. It might be in Asheville. I can't remember. Or I remember they moved out. I think it was in North Carolina. We've been working with those guys for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of the Boulder of North Carolina, Asheville there.
Totally.
It's really artsy, and it's a great spot to visit.
Yeah.
Beautiful mountains, cool little like mom and pop type shops and stuff in downtown.
Nice.
But yeah,
well, welcome back.
Yeah. It's good to be back, man. It's good to get in here and hang out with you, man. I've been dying to do this. I don't know. We might have hung out together in the past, but
totally.
Growing up
when
here,
I first saw you out there, I'm like, God, you're definitely familiar.
Right.
But
well, how old are you?
I am 38.
Okay, yeah. So I got a couple years on you. So we were in school around the same time.
Definitely.
And not to get too local here, but our town's not huge, but it kind of sprawls out into some other mountain towns. And like when you and I were growing up here, the schools had kind of split right? And
totally.
It divided to 2 high schools. So it was a much larger footprint. So I'm sure that we have some of the same friends, and we can dive into that after the podcast.
Yeah, and I actually went to Clear Creek.
Oh,
so I was living, my parents live up Stagecoach, and it's like right across the Clear Creek border. So I was commuting over to Idaho Springs.
Okay.
It's funny, we kind of call it the Forgotten Valley, because it's like a lot of Evergreen doesn't really view that part of Evergreen as Evergreen, and then Clear Creek doesn't really view it part as Clear Creek, and it's just kind of this Forgotten Valley. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a little tucked away secret. Don't tell too many
I
people.
know, exactly.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about it. I'm like, shit, should I buy some property up there, Because once the kids move out of this school district or whatever, it's
exactly.
Like thinking about it. But yeah, man, I guess I don't really know a whole lot about your background. So if we could dive into that and let's talk about your adventures and the business that you've started has turned into a monster, So
it's
definitely want to hear about that too. But I guess let's start with your background and just, you grew up here.
Yep. Yeah, I grew up here in Evergreen. It's definitely home. It's definitely shaped who I am, and I appreciate it so much. I went to school out in Bellingham in Washington State for a couple years, and it's like Washington's beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful places in the world, obviously, but this is definitely home. So it feels good to be back. But yeah, I grew up here in Evergreen.
Cheers to that.
Yeah,
man.
cheers to that for sure. Just good life decisions, But I grew up here in Evergreen. Like I said, I went to Clear Creek, so was making the commute over to Idaho Springs, and really just shaped who I am. Just have such a good core community here, and just endless opportunity to explore and adventure and ski, and all those different pieces. So, when I was in high school, I think about a sophomore is when this idea started coming to life. It was like, I'm going to start a ski company, and I was looking at names, I was looking at materials, I was gonna do it. I was like, well, might as well just do it now. Fuck it.
Yeah.
So, but then I realized I was like 15. I'm like, I still have a lot more learning to do. So, I continued to learn for a couple years, but then as a senior in high school is when I really kind of took the step. And I ended up graduating at semester. I kind of worked the system where I took all AP classes because I knew I could have credits at semester enough to graduate. And then I dropped out of all the AP classes. Yeah. The teachers were pissed. They're like, so you're not even going to take the test? I'm like, hell no.
Yeah, I'm busy. I got to go start a career.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so I ended up graduating early. And that whole second half of the year, I met these brothers in Boulder that were just making skis in their backyard. I can't even remember how I got connected with them, but I heard about them, and they allowed me to. I just called them up and I was like, "Hey, I'm interested in starting a ski company." And this was in '99, pretty much '99. So.
A few years ago.
I know, it's crazy. Time flies. I'm literally thinking. I was talking about that yesterday. I'm like, the last 20 years has been a blur. What? I have no idea. It's just crazy, but. So that was about '99, and they were awesome. They're like, "Yep, come on up. We'll show you this process." They were doing it as a hobby. It wasn't like they weren't starting a business or anything. They literally had a tough shed in their backyard were building skis. So I'd go up there about once a week, once or twice a week, and they're the ones who really taught me that process. How to make skis, what's the equipment needed, what are the exact materials, and then what's the process of actually building them. So I did that for about 6 months, just over 6 months. I did it through summer, so it was that whole second semester, and then I continued through summer. And then I went to school out in Bellingham in Washington, Western Washington University, and I went there. They had a program, it was called Industrial Design, so kind of like a product engineering type program.
Perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. I really was just trying to find them. I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, I know I want to start a ski company. What should I study to make this idea come to life?
I think that's so key, too, because I think so many people go into school, not knowing what they're going to do, and they're like, oh, I'll figure it out along the way, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, that was a huge eye-opener for me, just being, at the university. It was just seeing how many kids were there just because it was the next step. You know what I mean? It was just oh my, you're just going through the motions. And that's an expensive next step, you know what I mean? So that was a huge eye-opener. I'm like, yeah. I went for a couple years. So, I went there to study in industrial design. And like I said, I went there very focused on what I wanted to do. So when I got there, I dove right into all of the design classes. I didn't even take any prereqs or anything. I literally just dove in all this,
get my shit, get out.
Totally.
Yeah.
But then year 2, it started settling in. And it's well, you got to get all these other type credits. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the first semester was just all this bullshit. It's just all these other classes where it's do I really need to do this? I was just so focused. And, it was actually an e-contest that I was taking, and it was the hardest I'd ever studied for a test in my life, and the first test I'd ever failed. And I was just, it was it was an online class in 2000, so it was it was not effective, and it was just I don't know. I'd had enough. I got that back, and I was just I literally set it down, walked out of class, and then just pretty much called my parents and was like, hey, I'm done. I'm done with school. I'm gonna come back and start a ski company. And they just kind of laughed at first. All right, we knew it, But I think that was a big step, is just kind of not only seeing kind of other students going through the motions, just because whether it was personal pressure, whether it was family pressure, whether it was, they just considered it the next step. I'm when I made that decision, I knew that I needed to continue to learn. It was not giving up on learning. It was more just kind of identifying what are the best channels that I can learn what I need to.
How to maximize your time too, probably,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Like, because that's a huge thing. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're sitting there just killing brain cells
Yeah.
from learning
definitely.
and partying and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I kind of did the same thing. I just dove into the industry that I wanted to go into, which was rock and roll, and was just like,
Yep.
okay, how do I do this? Where do I go? Sign me up, And it was just
huge.
like, I got
There's no
fucked
better way to
over,
learn.
and
Of course, you're learning. It's learning.
It's all learning
It
experience.
is all learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, like I said, that was really the thing. I was like, okay, just because I'm gonna stop going to school does not mean that I'm gonna stop learning, And then it was like, where do I need to go to find the next
So then,
levels?
did you come back to Evergreen after
So I stayed.
that, or to Colorado? And
I stayed in Washington for about another 6 months. I finished that year for sure. I wasn't going to school, but I just stayed out there and continued to learn kind of the CAD programs. I had enough of the basics where I had all the programs on my computer, and I just went to the library and bought all the books. And for that next 6 months, I just kind of like continued to learn those programs just so I could be sufficient enough to design a ski in the molds and just the stuff that I needed to execute it. It's not that complex either. So that's the other part too, is like ski design is not that complex, or like designing the equipment you need. Like it's not rocket science by any means. But so I continued to do that, and then when I was out there, I met someone at K2 down. They were based on Vashon Island outside of Seattle at that time, and it was a guy who was in charge of like the graphics department of the snowboard side. So I called this guy up and I was like, hey, I'm looking at starting a ski company. I'd love to kind of like see what you guys have going on. And he's like, awesome, yeah, come on down. And at the same time too, I was like 19. I was 19 or 20. So I was like a kid, So I was like,
Right.
I don't think they took it too seriously. They're like, yeah, we'll help this kid out, But it was amazing. I got to go down there about, about once a week. And each time this guy would it was definitely an informal, I wouldn't even call it an internship. It was just every time I'd go down there, the guy would just take me to a different department, and I'd get to sit down with their team, and for like literally they'd give me like 3 hours. It was amazing, just like Q&A and just like learning a lot more about the how the industry worked and just the cycles. And I got to sit down, sales team, marketing team, product team,
Wow.
CEO, even like the finance side. Like it was pretty amazing.
almost like it was meant to be then, huh?
Totally. And
Yeah.
they just opened it up. I was working with their engineers on some like different ideas that I was thinking about. And I think what was really refreshing about it too, and just like reinforcing this decision, was just seeing the culture that they had created there. Like it was a fun work environment. I walked in, I was like, this is amazing. It's like this super cool space on an amazing little island out of Seattle. I walked in, the first thing the guy said, he's like, we don't really like to walk around here, and like gives me a skateboard. So we're just like skateboarding around the headquarters. I'm like, this is rad, That's cool. And so that was really just more refreshing. I'm like, yep, I think I'm getting into the right industry. But
what awesome guys too to open it up to you like that, right?
Huge.
Like
Huge.
I've tried to be like that in my life, and I urge other people to, man. Share what
Definitely.
you know, man.
100%.
It's only going to help you out.
Yep,
In my
exactly.
opinion, you're only as strong as the people holding you up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it comes back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have, something that you want to protect that badly, you'll probably have a patent, or you'll probably have something to protect it more than just
You would
being
hope so, yeah.
than just being secretive.
Right.
I'm much too. I am way too much of a talker.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, all my secrets get out pretty quick,
Oh,
man.
man.
It's like it's hard for me to keep one.
Oh yeah. People
Especially when the liquor's flowing or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's just
It's like
yeah, like, oh, so what do you? Yeah, just ask me a question. I'm like, well, let me tell you, and it's just boom. Yep. Whether it's
so you
talking
came back to
competitors
Colorado though, huh? And were you back here in the mountains? Or?
Yeah. So I after doing that for
It's hard to
same
go
thing,
anywhere
6
else,
months.
man, because
Definitely.
we got all this like
It's
I
the
mean,
best.
you have friends up here. It's just like it never changes, right?
It's the best weather in the world too.
Yeah.
Like the perspective. You talk to so many people not from here, they're like, oh, Colorado, like, oh, it's so cold there. You're like, well, kinda, not nothing like the East Coast, nothing like whatever. But and same thing. Being in Washington, Washington's an amazing state. Bellingham. Have you ever been up to Bellingham?
Yeah, I've spent some time up there just touring around. I would like to spend more time up around the Canadian border.
It's
and
beautiful.
Stuff like,
I mean, we were literally 10 miles south of the border and right on the water. Campus overlooked all the San Juan Islands. So I mean, it was an amazing place. We could go to Vancouver. Vancouver was under an hour away. And that was before you needed passports even to go across. So it was like super easy to get up there. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been.
BC is awesome, man.
Oh,
that was the one time in like tour buses where I would, because in a tour bus, you're trying to get some sleep normally. But whenever we were making the drive into BC, like going through Washington, I would always jump up in the jump seat or the passenger seat of the tour bus driver, right? And you just have this big, huge window to look through, and it's incredible, man. You're seeing animals, and
it's
just the mountains are breathtaking.
King of the Rockies. Yeah, it's like you go there on like the Banff. Have you ever been? Well, I guess that's in Alberta, but I mean, it's right on the border.
It's very similar though. A lot of those glaciated peaks. It's kind of like Glacier National Park type esque. You know,
see that you're like, well, this is the King of the Rockies. Like, we have amazing mountain here. This is but when you go up there, it's a different.
It's another level for sure.
It is literally.
Yeah.
And that was the first place I'd ever been, Banff. We were doing this was like year 1 of Icelantic. Travis Parr, our artist, and Travis Cook, who helped found the company as well. Us three did a road trip. We flew up to Calgary and then just, worked our way to Vancouver, Whistler area and flew out. And I remember we went to Banff for the first time. We were supposed to be there for like 3 days, and we stayed for 10. It was
it's
like
breathtaking, man.
It was the first place that we'd ever been. Like when we left, like we felt homesick. It was
especially
crazy.
If those guys are artists, man, because it looks like somebody painted those mountains.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Breathtaking, and then the lake that's there is completely like turquoise
crystal.
blue.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Totally clear. That's a beautiful part of the world.
Yeah,
man.
And the Canadians are just the best. I mean, I've been lucky enough to travel a lot of the world, and like the Canadian people are like the best.
Pretty hospitable,
so genuine. Yeah, I love it. So I loved being up in Washington, but it's rainy. You know what I mean? Like when it's nice, it's one of the best places in the world. But man, like winters would come in and just like, I mean, just a constant drizzle was like coming from Colorado where we have, 300 days of sun. It's amazing. It really does affect you. I had one of the little lamps,
I used to see these billboards because my wife's from upstate New York. And when I'd go up there and visit, they would be like, get your, solar lamps or something like that. Make sure you're happy.
Sunlight.
There's like some lady on the billboard, just smiling ear to ear. Like,
it
that's
kind
fake.
of worked.
That's fake. That's bullshit.
Placebo effect for sure.
But yeah, man, it's this is a good spot, and you still live up in this area.
I
now,
do, yeah,
right?
just really right up on the hill.
Oh,
like
perfect,
right above,
man. You have to stop by more often.
100%. I know. I was like caught up on a call right before. I'm like, shit, but I'm like literally 3 minutes away. So easy.
And anybody that's in this area or visiting this area, I strongly urge you to come to Evergreen and check out some of just the local business that's here, right? And we have some outstanding restaurants. There's some outstanding outdoor spots where you can rent stuff or get skis or stuff like that. Boone's is
Boone's
right
great.
here. You got Wildflower down the street, right? Shout out to those guys.
I love those guys.
And I mean, it's a cool little area, and we're 20 minutes from Red Rocks, and we're a hop, skip, and a jump to some ski resorts like Loveland and
it's the perfect
Eldora
balance.
and some of those other spots. So
even
it's a good spot to stop.
Like I've never lived in Denver, which is kind of crazy. I mean, we were working down there. We had headquarters.
Oh, that's not true. I guess I did at one point. But
I mean, kind of with like old girlfriends, somewhat. But like, I never had my own house down there, and I also think just like getting used to a commute, it's like the commute's not bad. For a while we were based on like 6th and Calumet area. So right on the outskirts of downtown or, in Denver, and maybe about 30 minutes, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. But I also had coworkers that were living, 3 miles away that would take them 30 minutes. I'm like, I would much rather take this commute. And I think growing up here as well, like going to school in Clear Creek, I was commuting every day. So it's like it doesn't bother me at all.
It's nothing to drive 20 minutes,
Yeah, and just to be able to come home and breathe, it's like, oh, man. But I mean, before this year, I was traveling a ton. When I look at kind of the last 10 years, I was probably away more than I was home,
Sure.
And when I'd come home, I'm like, people are like, oh, what do you do up there? I'm like, just chill.
Yeah.
I just breathe,
right.
So it's so nice just to have this, just to be able to come home to and
I know the feeling, man. I know the feeling for sure because I used to travel quite a bit too, and now With the whole COVID-19 thing, it's kept me locked in here a little
Yeah.
bit more, which has been a blessing, man. It's like,
yeah, no better place.
I've been all over the world numerous times
Yep.
and been to some really awesome places and wouldn't trade any of that.
Totally.
But it's like, I'm just at the point now where it's like, I'd rather just stay
Settle.
home.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just getting old or something.
Exactly.
Sound like an old man, but
Yeah.
it's like, at some point that shit gets old, staying in hotels. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I love seeing new stuff, but
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like for the last couple years, it's really been me. I've been telling myself that I'm like, you need to slow down a little bit. Like time to settle. Time to like just slow down a little bit. I mean, it took a pandemic, but it did it. I'm like, all right, I'm home.
Yeah,
chilling,
put it
and
in perspective, right?
Yeah, started doing a bunch of projects on the house. I put in a door at my house. Like, so I bought this house up. I'm just right up on Hill up here, trail, and I got the house in 2008. It was a foreclosure, got a great deal. I got it. And so each year I've been kind of doing projects. And like the first year we built this deck, my buddy and I, like a few friends and I, and we decided to make it a double-decker deck. So it's like a big wraparound like on the main level. But then there's this upper bedroom. I was like, let's just put a deck up there. So, eventually we can make it a master and everything. But I never put a door in for like 10 years. So I finally put the door in during quarantine. So that feels good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can actually use it now.
Yeah, exactly. Moved upstairs. So it's like a new house.
So, have you always had a passion for skiing? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
if you grew up, it's kind of a staple, right? If you grow up here,
Definitely.
you're going to do some sort of winter sport or you're going to sit inside, play
yeah,
video
exactly.
games or whatever, right?
Yeah, I suck at video games, which my brain does not work that way. It's kind of, I've never beat any video game in my life, not even like original Nintendo games. So yeah, I kind of was forced, but I always just grew up skiing. It was like Loveland was the local spot. We do snow dodgers, on Saturdays where they'd bus all the kids up, and it was a passion. I mean, and that's really kind of what Icelandic turned into. Is I was joking like it was definitely not a strategic decision. It was 100% driven by passion, but we've got it to really to work.
That's great,
Staying
man.
Different, yeah.
And it's an incredible company too. We're going to dive into that here in a minute, but I want to hit on skiing a little bit because you've done a lot of different types of skiing that people aren't able to do, probably, right? I mean, you've skied around the world.
Yep, yeah, kind of all over.
I mean, have you ever done any hella skiing, like snowcat skiing, anything like that? A lot of backcountry stuff? I've done heli skiing. One of my favorite, like, cat trips, skiing in BC was at a lodge called Untitled, and it's kind of like we flew into Spokane and just drive straight north. I'm trying to remember what the town was it was right next to, but it was one of the best ski experiences of my life. Like, just amazing terrain. The staff and the lodge itself were just like top notch. Not in terms of like super ritzy. I mean, it's nice, don't get me wrong. The food was amazing, but just like everyone who worked at the lodge, guides, cooks, everyone was just like top of their, like, amazing at what they did and genuinely passionate about what they did. So and the snow was amazing, so that was a good trip. But yeah, I mean, got to ski all and
over
what is
Europe.
that experience? You wake up in the morning,
you
hop
wake
in a
up,
snowcat, right?
Yep, yeah, they'll make you breakfast, get in the snowcat and just go out and explore new terrain. I mean, at the same time too, like, you got to be prepared. Like, one of the days, I think the second day we were there, like, it had snowed, which was amazing, but it was really sketchy. Like, one of the guides in a different group, he got washed by a slide, and then our guide, we were up on a big bowl, and we were up there with like Free Skier magazine. They were doing their like outerwear test, and they just asked me to be a tester. I was pumped.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like, hey, man,
I'm getting paid for this.
Hell yeah, well, perfect. So I was on the other, and it was cool because I was on the other side of that industry. I wasn't like one of the brands going to get our skis tested, or it's like I was being a tester. So it was fun just to be on that side, but. Long story short is we had photographers up there, and at one of the spots we were kind of at this big kind of bowl chute, steep, and probably 5,000 feet of vert. I mean, huge lines, and the photographer, we sent him out on this like side ridge, and then the guide came down just to.
And are most of the photographers like ski in?
Yep.
I mean, you have to be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, those guys, I don't know how they do it sometimes. I mean, just where they have to put them. I mean, luckily they put them most of the time, put themselves in safe situations. But yeah, you gotta know your shit for sure to be a good photographer. Sure. to not only to be able to get the shots, but then to just have that relationship with the athlete as well. But this was scary. So he's poached out, and then the guide came down and just kind of like did a little cut, and the whole face just ripped. I mean, it was probably 4 to 5 foot crown at the top and 200 yards long. And the photographer, it cracked like 2 feet below him. And it was like shocking that he didn't get washed either. So it was like, that was really startling. And then we realized we're all still like at the top. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, we still got to get down this shit. Yeah. So like, are we going to go on the sides where it's still super sketchy, or like, work our way down the slide path, which is just, like concrete. So,
yeah.
Besides that run, everything was amazing.
I think it was 2 episodes ago. We did a whole episode just on avalanche safety. It was pretty awesome. From some of the guys from Apex Mountain School came over from Vail and
it's
sat
such
down
an
with
important
us.
skill. I mean, it's like I've done my Avi 1. I've never done my Avi 2. I need to. I've been lucky enough to get an experience with like very knowledgeable people. So, you definitely learn. But I mean, I think the biggest thing is just to always be aware. Don't take anything for granted.
Sure.
Do the little things. Always double check. Just like it's so important. And go in educated, get as much information as you can before as well, just, from the reports. I mean, we're lucky here in Colorado to have CAIC.
Yeah,
I mean, the work
it's
that they do, it's some of the best in the country by far, just the quality of information and the range that they have real-time information is just, it's almost unmatched. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's other good avalanche forecasting that, the Tetons, there's a lot of amazing places, but we're really lucky in Colorado to have that resource, and in a way that it's easy to digest. It's like if you go to their website, and just seeing the daily reports.
Sure.
They've done it in a way like it might seem somewhat confusing at first when you look at like just how, the graphs and the grids or whatever. I don't know if grids, but how they relay the information. But it's very basic. Once you understand how it is just the perfect go-to on a daily basis, just to
and that's
really
what that first level of certification is kind of understanding all of that.
Yep.
Watching weather patterns, understanding
exactly
and how to read those charts and colors and
it's never ending. You're never gonna just earn the information, or like gain the information. You want to continue to build on it. Even the
and also at the same time, you can't just check that and be like, oh, I'm good,
ready to
roll.
Exactly. Totally.
There's variables, right? Yeah. So.
Sometimes I have. There's definitely those I was like, well.
I think everybody does
Definitely.
At some point, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if you work a full-time job and you're just excited to get in the backcountry, the first thing you're going to do is check real quick, maybe.
Yeah, it's all risk
and then
management.
You're going to get out there, right? Yeah.
So no matter what, you're taking a risk, but you just got to be as well prepared as you can. There's another app, I think it's called Fat Maps. And it's a European company that started it, and it's full like 3D renderings of mountain ranges, and there's like berthed passes on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's amazing.
Cool.
It is a really cool application where you can, full 360 perspectives of areas. You can get a really good sense of the terrain, and then just like, just different shading they have for, more, dangerous situations and aspects. But yeah, Fat Maps, that's a really good resource as well. But I mean, the base one, CAIC, it's like Colorado Avalanche Information Center. That's what it stands for. So support them and get your information there.
Yeah. And, one thing that they brought up in that Avalanche episode that we did was, you can provide information to them too. They're always looking for information.
Definitely.
So if you're out there reading it, submit it to them, and it just helps everybody out.
Huge.
So, yeah.
And it's all, you can download the app. So it's super easy to, relay information, because that's the other thing is like even the guides, it's like they're going to go out and get the information that they can track, but it is slightly different everywhere. Like it's really, it's somewhat unknown. So the more information you can channel and the more real-time information, the better. Especially this year. I mean, it's sketchy right now. It is so dangerous. I mean, I think
we've had some weird weather patterns,
and we've
right?
had a lot of deaths. I mean, I think there's been 5 already unberthed this year. I don't know.
Really?
It's like record numbers so far. It's like the most that there's ever been by the end of December. So, it's
something to be aware of. For
definitely
sure,
be aware. And that's the unfortunate part about the rock. Like, there's a lot of amazing things about Colorado, but it really is some of the most dangerous avalanche terrain in the country, in the world. I mean, in the world. The Alps are somewhat of a different scale, but overall, this place, it's pretty.
Our mountains are a lot easier to trek in and out of too. I feel like there's a lot easier access, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of access.
Yeah.
but it also it's and I don't know all the exact science, but it's the combination of like, shade, aspect, a lot of different things. Like
we get a lot of sun here.
Sun, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all the different pieces that it's the perfect mix to check yourself out here in Colorado. I mean, yeah,
to keep the mountains clear, I guess.
Yeah, and then just the snowpack itself. I mean, you look at a place like Alaska, it's like, I mean, the Maritime, I mean, it's perfect. Like that is set up to ski big lines. You can't ski lines like that in Colorado, like much at all. You know? I mean, there's not many lines like that, but just to get high in the Alpine, that's a spring activity.
So all the places that you've skied, do you have some favorites? I mean, like, the Alps, or
I mean, I love the Alps. That if I could,
it's incredible, man. I never skied there. I snowboarded there one time. Was fortunate enough that I had a couple days off, and I was like, we go rent a snowboard and hang out for a couple days, and it was super rad. But
it's the best. I mean,
it's like we were explaining Banff,
Yeah, exactly.
Those type of panoramic just mountainscapes are
what really shocks me about the Alps is that when you go up there, there's no ropes. Like you get off the tram or the lift or whatever, and you're looking around, and like you can literally go anywhere. It's all at your own risk, Like
right.
I've had some crazy situations. Like one time we were skiing in Switzerland, and we accidentally skied down into Italy. And when we got down there, it was a different ticket, and it was all Italian, and we didn't have the ticket, we didn't have money, and we didn't have our passports. So this guy's like, we're at the ticket checker, it's like, not letting us through, and he's yelling at us in Italian. It's a tram, and it was myself and a couple of friends, and we're just sitting there like, all right, what do we do? He's like yelling passports and all this stuff, and we're just like, we don't have passports.
Yeah, that's the last thing I think of going up the mountain is do I have my passport?
No.
Yeah.
Then he's asking for money, and like we were literally broke at this time, and we had to just book it. Like last one, we could see, we're like, all right, the door's gonna start closing. When that door starts closing, we're getting on that tram. So we're just like talking. And it's like full like security,
Right.
I don't think it was police, but they're looking at us, and all of a sudden we kind of just look at each other, and we just booked it and hopped on that tram, and then by the time you're back in Switzerland, so we were good. But other than that, I mean,
crazy.
Yeah,
a tram goes,
I mean, just skiing from town to town, and all of the on mountain, cabins. It's pretty cool that it's all privatized. So like all of the restaurants or just the opera spots, whatever, all on the mountain, they're all individually owned.
Yeah,
and it's just quality. I mean,
it's like village hopping, basically.
It is,
right?
And you're sitting there. Yeah, like sometimes it's just an independent, cabin, all the way down to little villages, and I mean, it's the best. We've been going on an annual trip like 3 years. 3 years now. We used to have headquarters in Switzerland for like 4 or 5 years. I think about 5 years. And then it was like, that is way too expensive. It's like, what are we thinking opening offices in Switzerland? Premature bad decision. Yeah. But at the same time, we got to spend a ton of time over there. Yeah, it was a great experience. But yeah, I mean, I love the Alps. So yeah, we've been going back just with a pretty solid crew. And we have a really good group of friends over there as well. I mean, that's been the industry's pretty small. So just meeting like-minded people all over the world has been pretty amazing. So yeah, missed the crew. I was actually on the call with one of my friends, Annie, just like right before I came here. That's why I was late. We were FaceTiming, and she lives in Innsbruck in Austria, and she does all the like social media and marketing for like Blizzard Technica over there, and it was just good to reconnect with her.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I miss the Alps, and then Japan. Japan is the other one. Like,
that was one country I would go back there, man. I love spending time there. It's epic.
Easy.
I've never skied there or anything.
Go. But, yeah. It is so deep. Like so many people when they go there, like January, February, like it's 100. You're good. I have so many friends like, I'm going to Japan. Like, where should I go? What should I do? Like, asking for tips. I'm like, just go. You're just fine. Go. You're fine. You don't need a secret spot to like find the deep, amazing snow in Japan. So. And just the Japanese culture. Like Japan is our biggest market outside of the U.S.
Really?
We have an amazing team over there, like just like-minded. It's just like us. I mean, I got to go over there and, do a little trade show and, just spend a lot of time with them a couple years ago. I mean, we've seen each other besides that, but that was the first like fully in-depth experience with them, like seeing a trade show and how they're presenting our brand to the market and all that stuff. And just with major language barriers,
sure.
it was so aligned. I was like, we have the right partners over here, and there's so much passion, and it's real.
That's epic.
And it's really being just received well over there. Just our whole brand and philosophies and product and all the different
Well, let's
pieces.
talk about that, man.
Cool.
Can you explain to me what spurred Icelandic? I mean, I know that you always wanted to have a ski company. You mentioned that in the past, but what you guys have turned into is so much more than that. I think it's a brand. It's a lifestyle. I mean, you guys make amazing stuff. If anybody knows the snowboard industry, like Never Summer or something like that,
huge.
Your artists are amazing. I mean,
it's one. We've only had one guy since the beginning. So I mean, really, I think one of the biggest things is getting in this industry, you've got to do things different. No question about it. It's like a very competitive market. There's no growth in terms of participation. Like if you look at the numbers, like you try to share this with like a, investor type group or whatever, they look at like, why are you getting in this industry? So like we knew that going in was
so there's got to be a bit of a passion in it.
Well, like there has to be, if you're going to start fresh, especially, and there kind of always was, when you look at pretty much every, successful ski brand, a lot of them are European, even snowboard, Burton, Never Summer, all of the brands, even LibTech, all these guys, like it has to start with passion. The question is, can you sustain the passion? Can you, build a culture to allow that to be a real piece of your brand that really can't be duplicated? And, that's kind of the range that I see a lot of brands in our industry go through. It's like, can you keep your soul?
Sure.
And it's a tough challenge, but at the same time, it's not a tough challenge. It's just decisions on how you want to build it. So, I mean, going into it, like I said, it really was just an idea that I had, and then I really just surrounded myself with the right people. I mean, that's a key piece. And, the first partner friend that I had was Travis Parr. So we grew up here together in Evergreen, and he ended up going to art school down on Laguna Beach. He was studying illustration. I mean, it was pretty crazy how that all came to be, but got an amazing opportunity, got a scholarship, got to go down to Laguna. And so he was down there when I was up in Bellingham. He knew about this idea when we were in high school and everything like that. So when I decided I wasn't going to go to school anymore, I called my parents, told them, and then I called him and I was like, hey, I'm doing this, do you want to be a part of this and help come up with a name, logo, and then create graphics on the skis. And at that time, really, no one was putting paintings on skis. They
were pretty just like colors, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Snowboard was like dabbling a little bit, like with art, more like aggressive type thing. Like, I wouldn't say aggressive, but just like loud. But no one really doing it on skis. So it was pretty perfect. When I moved back to Colorado, I started making skis in my parents' garage. So like the two brothers that I was working with in Boulder, they stopped making skis. So they had all the equipment that I needed, and they pretty much gave it to me. I paid them like $1,200. And I mean, it should have cost me probably like 30, 40 grand, So it was like it hooked up. So I pretty much got all that stuff and just set up shop in my parents' garage and just press
So
skis.
it started right here then.
Yeah, just right up on Stagecoach.
That's awesome, man.
I still have a bunch of the stuff in the garage. My mom's like, when are you going to get this shit out of here? I'm like, oh, we're good.
Give me another 20 years.
Totally. Yeah. We actually went and we did this little like brand video, and we went up and filmed a little in it. I was like, told you, I'm so glad we didn't break this all down.
Yeah. But, you got to keep it. Could be a museum someday, right?
Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't have it.
Right.
But so I was building skis up there for about 2 to 3 years while Travis was finishing school in Laguna. And so during that time, we were just like always on the phone, coming up with names. We're like, what should we call this thing? And we were kind of like talking about things like, like we want something that's cold, and we were looking at different like snow gods and, just like talking for probably a few months. And then his girlfriend at the time, Lindsay, she just said it in the background. She's like, what about Icelantic? And I'm like, what did she say? He's like, what'd you say? He's like, Icelantic. And it was just like, that's it. Like it just kind of hit. And it was like, it's pretty perfect. It's our own word kind of too. So it's like, in terms of like domains and, just like rights, it's like, there's no questions there. And it just kind of felt right. And then we were trying to figure out like, what's our logo going to be? We're like, what's going to be our symbol? And, I was throwing out some pretty basic things. I'm like, let's do like a snowy tree or, whatever. Right. And, one day he called me and he's like, Ben, he's like, I've got it. He's like, I'm in the library reading science books. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, first of all, you're in art school. Like, what are you doing reading science books? And he's like, 1 degree Celsius. And he's like, and he explains how like 1 degree Celsius is the temperature where there's the first molecular change from water to ice. So at 0, it's frozen, but that first change happens at 1 degree. And we're like, oh yeah, that it just kind of aligned. We're like, yep, it's kind of the temperature that the magic happens, temperature of change, just like it just kind of aligned.
And for our listeners, that's your guys' logo, right?
Yeah,
it's like
symbol.
A box with a 1 in it,
So
and
many
it's got the
people,
C.
exactly. Yeah, it's like if you look at it, you can see like a 1 degree C, but like so many people don't know what that is, but they are intrigued by it, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so many times that
it looks awesome.
Yeah, I guess I'm not wearing a hat, but so many times I wear the hat and people are
we'll
like,
throw it up on the video so people can see it.
Yeah, what's that? And I'm like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah, you got to swag us out here, man. I'll rep you during the podcast.
Yeah. I will 100% get you down
cool.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, he helped me kind of during that time, and then when he was graduating is when I had good designs, like I felt confident in the shapes, the construction, and that was a learning process for sure. I mean, I'd literally build a pair and just ski it till it would just explode,
I bet.
Full speed. I think they're ripping, and then just delam or just rip the bindings out, just eat shit, So all my friends would be like, "Could I try a pair?" I'd be like, "Hell no, we're not ready," So so by that time I was like, I had some good shapes dialed, and he was coming back, and then my friend Travis Cook, who has kind of been like a sounding board with the design process and some like basic like model philosophies of like shapes to come up with, he had moved back to Evergreen. He went to school out in Pennsylvania. And he studied architecture, and he came back, and then his mom, Becky, they live up on Squaw Pass, and she had built this like little separate studio that was like unfinished, and she was like, hey, if you guys want to use this as a space, you guys could all live here, work here, whatever. And we're like, yes, that'd be amazing. So Travis Cook, her son, and we got to go and just like we built the whole thing out, and we just created our workspaces and our live space, and we called it the Brain. It was just like this like creative space. We'd bring people over, and they're like, "What the hell is this place? Like this is crazy," Yeah. It was such a cool, just very formative time of our lives, just like fully expressing ourselves. So long story short is we convinced Parr, the one in Laguna, the artist, to come back and move into this space with us and start Icelantic. So,
that's epic, man.
Yeah, kind of the rest is history. And then, then from there, the team just continues to grow. Like our very first year on the market. So we moved in that space and really just prepared to go to market. It was the combination of like finding investing to getting our brand ready to present to the market. So there was about a year of just like prepare, and then we got to go to Vegas, and it was like in 2006, and that was like our first year on the market. And that was a learning experience.
Is that like a trade show experience?
Yeah, it was like
walking
in blind. I'll never forget. We brought a full ream of order forms, like a ream of paper, thousands. We didn't use one. Yeah. literally, we were so. But we made an impression for sure. Like we showed up to this thing because we built our booth, and it was Parr and Travis and I, and then we just got like random friends around us like to come and help build it and stuff like that. So we built this booth. And our number one objective when building was like, this thing cannot fall down, so we overdid it. Like we framed up a house pretty much. It was like a 20 by 10, but then we put a full like legitimate teepee in it. Like, so a whole like corner of the booth was a big teepee, and we were going to have it like, it was going to be for all the meetings,
Yeah.
All we did was do shots of tequila in it. Like, we didn't have one meeting in there.
Did you have a peace pipe at least?
Yeah, definitely. I was wearing a boarskin cloak.
Really?
Yeah, it was a different story, but
awesome.
Yeah, so we went to the market, and half the people there thought we were selling teepees. Literally, like, can I get a price list for these tents?
Yeah.
We're like, oh no, but check this out. We're showing them the skis, and but that first year we got this opportunity to apply for it was an award in Munich, Germany, at a trade show called ISPO, and that's kind of the world's biggest like sporting good trade show. And they had a thing called the Brand New Awards, and with that, you could apply for it. You had to be your first 5 years in business, and then it was judged on like innovation and quality and whatever. There's some different parameters of what they were judging on, but we applied for that, and we ended up winning it. So they have like 5 awards. There's like a winter hard good of the year, a summer hard good, like a accessory, and an apparel award. And we ended up winning the Winter Hard Good of the Year, and it was out of like,
nice.
I think there was like 200 companies from like 150 countries,
That's a
so it was like
big deal.
it was a big deal. So like it kind of propelled us onto the international market. And at that time, it was like just Par and Travis and I, and we're like, okay, we're going to Germany. It was like, we need support on this level. So we had another friend, Annalisa, who we grew up with. She lived in Idaho Springs, but just, that's where we went to school. So we've known her since middle school. And she went to UVM up in Burlington, Vermont, and she studied international business. So we're like, hey, you want to come in and be a part of this and help us navigate these waters, So she was the next one on the team, and it's just kind of built from there. And we brought in Sam Warren. He's from Evergreen here as well.
Awesome.
He was just trying to help any way he could. Like he was younger than us, so like I somewhat knew him growing up, just like through family, different through the Boones, like whatever. So like really good family friends with them, and but he was out in San Diego, and he like showed up at the trade show in Vegas one year, and he was just like, "How can I help?" And he was just like, pretty much found a position. Next thing you know, we hired him, and he moved back, and he was I can't even remember. He's done so many different roles. Like it was like we had him doing like bookkeeping, right. Like not a bookkeeper, and then it was like I can't even remember. But
well, that's so awesome, man. That I didn't realize it was that rooted here.
Yeah, very localized for sure. Like a lot of Evergreen, and everyone's
awesome.
still with the company. Like everyone's still fully engaged. Like Sam was a prime example of this. But one of the biggest things like starting this was like telling people, like, I do not want to be your boss. You know what I mean? It's like, I am not going to come and tell you what to do. It's like, we have a common goal, but I think that you are really going to bring, something to the table, and help create this. It's like, this is a platform for all of us.
Sure.
Where can we go with this? And like, it's been really fun to see how everyone's used this platform to grow from it, from like, Par in his art career, from like Travis Cook, who's like not technically with the company anymore, but how he's taken this experience and he's doing some amazing projects right now. But, to Annalisa, who's now CEO of the company, so now she's like the big boss, which is great.
Yeah.
and then Sam, he's the one who started Winter on the Rocks for us. So like started doing concerts at first and only winter shows at Red Rocks. So,
yeah, which is super epic too,
Yeah,
right?
and
Like you guys took a time that was completely dead, and turned it into this festival.
That was
and
huge.
It's huge, right?
It was.
Yeah.
That was a big piece because that trade show was SIA, and it was always in Vegas. And then I can't remember. It was like 10 years ago or something, maybe even more than that now. It moved to Denver, and that's where it's like, all right, we got the biggest show coming to our backyard. What can we do? Like we need to host it. We got to do something,
Yeah. And what more of an epic place than that, right? That's 20 minutes down the road.
Totally.
Yeah.
It took us a couple years to make that jump. So like it started with just, it's pretty funny. Like each year with the art on our skis, we would come up with a different theme that we would do each year. So we've done everything from like migration to the 5 senses and different animals, whatever.
Yeah, I want to dive into that a little bit because I feel like that's such
it's
an eye opener for your brand, right?
Yep.
It makes me want a pair of skis, and I'm not even a skier.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. You're like, mount these things?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we come up with a different theme every year, and this year the theme was on music genres. So, we had like a bluegrass ski and a hip-hop ski and soul and funk and like psychedelic rock, and I can't remember. So a whole variety of music genres that we are going to be, unveiling at this show. So like, well, it makes sense to like, let's have a concert,
And that was for 2020?
No, that was in,
okay.
this was in like, I think it must have been like 2000.
Oh, so this was the
10.
very first.
This is the beginning, yeah.
Okay,
I think
cool.
it was like 2010 maybe. I can't remember the exact year. Like I said, the last 20 years have been a blur. Like I have no idea. But so we decided to do this, and we actually met these two girls out in Vegas that year before. They were out in Vegas from AEG, and they were out there kind of recruiting brands to come back and throw a party at one of their venues. So we were like in a limo, like going to Old Town or something. Like it was just this crazy like random group of people, and they're like, just like, where are you guys from? We're like Denver, and and they said that they're from AEG. So we're like, we've been coming up with this idea. What do you think? So we just started a relationship with them. So the first year we ended up doing a show at the Ogden, and
Great spot.
Oh,
I grew up in that place.
It's the best. Like it is my favorite. I love the Ogden in Denver. Like it's there's so much energy in there. It's just a cool space. And so it was our first year, and we did this, and we're like, all right, like how should we do this? Like, we were taking a risk and whatever, and we blew it out. Like, we sold it out. People were literally jumping the fence, getting in. Like, it was crazy.
Well, and I think that's what's so cool about your company. Like, even if you're not a skier and you're listening to this right now, you need to go check out Icelandic. I mean, check out your website. Just look at some of the art and what you guys encompass, because it's a lot more than
skiing.
Like, you have this concert with an unveiling skis into music genres, and like, that's how the whole company is.
And we were kids.
I
mean, it was crazy when I think about that. We were like 24. You know, like, we were young doing this shit. It's like, what are we, like, the fact that we got people to believe in it and to support this vision on all spectrum, you know, from family first to the local community to, you know, to legitimate brands and legit, you know, AEG, you know what I mean? Like, this is awesome. So yeah, we just blew it out, and we did that for 2 years. The second year we had Big Boy, and I can't remember who was opening, but it was just another great show. But then we were going into the third year, and we're like, Sam was like, God, what if we could do a winter show at Red Rocks? And I was like, yes, like, that would be epic. Like, how do we do it? You know? So we started by going down to AG, and we met with, do you know, like, Chuck Morris?
Yep.
Yes, we met with Chuck. You
How'd
know?
that go?
Awesome. Like, it's so good. So good. Like,
cool.
we had known him before just from, like,
he
doing
saw
these
the
shows.
dollar sign.
We were a spec, you know, like, you guys are cool. But his son loved the brand, so, like, there was some good connections there. But I'll never forget, we were in his office, and we were kind of pitching this idea of doing Winter on the Rocks. And he's like, you guys, he's like, I love this. He's like, I will help this vision come to life, because it was tough, because we had to convince the city to do it, because it's owned by the city, and you know, there's a lot
and
of
it's a national park too.
Yeah, and it's like
there's all this red
winterized.
tape.
Yeah, there's so much red tape, and it's like, okay, we're gonna need support navigating this. So he's like, we're in, like, let's do this. And he's like, we can do this however you want. It's like, we can, you know, take all the risk and reap all the reward, and you guys can be title sponsors of this thing for the life of it. Or you guys can own it, you know, take the risk, take the reward, hire us to help, you know, orchestrate it and just execute it. Or we can be 50-50 partners. And we're like, 50-50 for sure. You know, it's like both have skin in the game. And I mean, it was crazy. I mean, just it is a lot of risk. You know,
that had to be exciting though at the same time, right?
Man. Like, and then when he sold it out, you know, it was just like, oh, this is amazing. I mean, Chuck at the show, you know, he went to the show, and he's like, this is one of the most monumental experiences I've ever done. He was comparing to, like, the Beatles back in whatever, you know, like, literally. We're like, oh, damn, Chuck, like, this is awesome, you know?
Cool.
So, yeah, it really set the tone, and really just took our brand, you know, on a different level. You know, it's like, talk about ways to, like you're saying, engage with the community.
It's a lot more immersive, right? And it feels like even if you're not a skier, you can still enjoy that, right?
Yeah. One of our main focuses, like, from the beginning, was like, we want people to be a part of what we're doing. You know, we don't want to just make stuff and sell it. You know, like, that's whatever. We want to grow as individuals too.
Sure.
Like, it's so much about living your life, not just like making a living. So, like, we were, you know, looking at all different ways to how do we make this very inclusive. And, you know, that's been the most successful of all of them, you know, and we've done a lot of different things. Like, after we were in Evergreen here, when we moved, we ended up moving down. You know, this was like a couple years into the business, or maybe a year into the business, and it was like, okay, like, it's time to move out of this space. You know, this was amazing. Like, we created the brand, we conceptualized kind of what we were doing, and then executed it for the first time. But it was time to move on, and we were kind of looking at where we wanted to go. You know, it was like, okay, like, should we look at something else in Evergreen? And we're like, we were kind of looking at that. We're like, it'd be good. Like, let's get out of this bubble, you know, like, let's and separate a little bit of work and space, you know, like work and life, which is, you know, a tough challenge.
So you guys went 5 minutes down the road.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, yeah. Right out to, we were in Kittredge.
Yeah.
No, we ended up going down to the Santa Fe Arts District in Denver.
Oh, okay.
And we were familiar with that space. Our artist, when he came back, when we were living in the studio, not only were we starting Icelandic, but he was working on his, like, first kind of, like, personal show, and he got contracted to do a show down at, it's called the Space Gallery down on Santa Fe. Really cool space. They had recently moved, but if you ever need to go check out one of the top galleries in Denver, Space Gallery is one of, if not the best.
Pretty epic.
It's epic.
It's a cool spot.
But so he got to do it, so we were familiar with the area. So we went down there and we were looking at spaces, and we ended up finding a spot, like, on 8th and Santa Fe. And that was crazy too. We moved into that space, and that was like our first offices. And, that was when they were just starting to do like First Friday art walks. So we're like, okay, we got to capitalize on this. Let's open our doors and have like parties on these First Fridays. And we were like a block off of Santa Fe. So at first we were like, I wonder if we're going to pull people. Like, how's this going to be? And from the first one we had, we blew it over 1,000 people, like
really?
Just blown out. It was crazy. We're like, holy shit.
What did we start? Yeah.
And but at the same time too, we were like in our early 20s, so we're like, this is awesome. Like we were doing it every month. So First Friday of every month, we were just opening our doors to the community, and like, it got a lot of eyes and just like a lot of followers, and just people were blown away. They're like, I've never been anywhere like this. Like, this energy is amazing. Like, I remember there was this one girl there. She had just moved up from Boston or something. And she kept going around. She's like, who lives here? Who lives here? We're like, no one lives here.
Right.
We work here, But, we did that for, I think, 3 years in that space. And then we moved over to the Battery building. It was on 6th and Calumet. So actually, two more friends from here in Evergreen, Frank Phillips and Mike Arts, and Ian Foreman, they own a company called the Public Works, and they had come to our spot, and they kind of got familiar with the area, and there was this old like lighting building right on 6th and Calumet for sale, and they got some partners and ended up buying that space, and it was called Battery 621, so it's a big kind of communal workspace. And we were one of the first tenants that they talked to about the project, and we're like, yeah, let's do it, And it was an amazing experience as well. There was like Spider was in there, Gibberish Clothing, us. There's like just a really cool group of people, and we kind of took what we had started at this old space and just kind of like brought it there. And this space was much bigger, and we had a rooftop deck, and like we just it was really fun. So we were down in Denver for probably about 7 years, and just like really established ourselves in the community, from those type of experiences to like, a lot of work with, government, local, and, on the state level. So really just kind of established ourselves and just built good connections and a positive reputation.
And you guys are in Golden now, or are you still in the downtown area?
We ended up moving to Golden. That must have been like 3 years ago, I think. Our lease was coming up at the Battery, and we just knew it was ready to move. It was time to move on. Like that was great for what it was, but it was just like we were kind of over the monthly parties and kind of over the communal workspace. It was time for us to get our own space, or back to our own space, and we just kind of sat everyone down and were like, what should we do? And we had some really cool opportunities in Denver. Kind of on the ground level. Like got to so. But when we sat everyone down, everyone's like, we want to get west again. Like the city's been amazing. Like we loved it. It was what it was. We spent 10 plus years of our, the first half of the brand's life there, or more than that. And time to move out to Golden. And it's been the best move ever. Like Golden is
I got to come visit you guys.
You
man.
have
I'd love
to come
see
check
the operation.
Space. It's such a cool space. Like we got the coolest building in Golden, like 100%. It was vacant for 15 years before this.
Really?
Yeah, not from lack of demand.
Right.
Jeff's not gonna really hear this, but the landlord is like pretty hard to get along with. You know what I mean? Like, but so. And
don't take it personal, Jeff.
No, exactly. He's old school. He knows his ways, and he's gonna do it that way. And I think it was a lot of restaurants that were interested in the space, and I don't know the logistics, but all I know is nothing went through. And we went down there. We just did like a day trip with like our whole crew, and we just like walked around, like felt it out. What were we thinking? Looking at some opportunities, and we saw this space. We're like, God, this is pretty awesome, And we contacted him, or we got Bent Gate. Are you familiar with Bent Gate Mountaineering?
Yeah.
So they are literally across the street, and they were our first
big rock climbing store.
Yep,
right?
exactly. Yeah, all mountaineering. Yeah. They're the best. we've been working with them. They were literally our first ever account. Very first year. They were the one order form that worked in Vegas. The one that we used in the TV.
Yeah,
for real though. So we've been working with them forever, and they were actually the last tenant in this space. And since they had moved out, like the owner had built this like new addition onto it and whatever. It used to be just this old gas station building, and so I called those guys, and I was like, "Hey, could you connect me with Jeff or who the landlord is?" So he connected me, and luckily, Jeff, same thing as like kids knew the brand and they loved the brand. So he gave us a chance. And at first, luckily Anna is with us still, because if she was not, we would not have moved.
Right.
Like he and I did not see eye to eye. Like we were just so different. You know, I'm walking this space. I'm like, okay, here's what we're thinking. I'm just firing like ba 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 ba, because it was a blank canvas too. I mean, it was a empty space. And he's just like, whoa, you need to slow down, son. You know, like we are not even close to having a deal. So Anna pretty much took over the communication, and we ended up getting the space, which was huge.
That's awesome. And do you guys have a storefront there? I mean, is it open to the general public? They can walk in and
be
check out your stuff.
And that was kind of the strategy around that evolution. So like, you know, we knew we still wanted to be open to the community, you know, like just what we had done with these First Fridays and these parties. And, you know, we had just really built a solid community. So we're like, all right, we want this concept, but we don't want to be doing monthly parties again. You know, it's like, it's been too long. So we're like, this will just be the new public facing side of our business. You know, like they can come and be a part of it, feel it, interact with us, and in a shopping experience too. So, and it's worked. I mean, it's been such a good move. You know, both the retail side.
And that's right in downtown Golden.
It's right in downtown Golden.
What's your guys' address, just in case anybody wants to stop by?
Yeah, so 1300 Washington. We're right on the corner of like, you know, Washington's the main street through Golden and 13th. Yep. So we're right next.
Another epic little Wild West city. Coors Breweries there.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah.
Yep. That was the best part when we were doing the build out of this space. Random guy would show up like every week and drop off a 30 rack to the like my buddy who's helped doing the build out. Right. And it was like he wouldn't say a thing. All he'd say is like, "Welcome to the neighborhood."
Oh, really?
Like this is awesome. So yeah, Coors shout out. But gosh, I don't even know where I was.
We were talking about the space and just where it was located. And,
so we're right next to Table Mountain Inn.
Oh, perfect.
And like right across the street from Woody's. So like we're right, and it's a great spot. In
it's
the
a
summers
great spot
too,
if you're visiting. Yeah, come check it out.
And in the summers, my friend Allie here in Evergreen, she just started a new company called Nice Ice, and it's like this shaved ice. She grew up in Austin, and it's just like amazing shaved ice. So she started her business, and we let her come down and set up her spot like right on our patio out front. So in the summers, definitely come down and get some.
Nice.
Definitely.
Cool. So I mean, I think we've pretty much covered the ski company. I mean,
yeah, totally.
You're just a mountain person in general, man. You big fly fisherman, right?
Huge.
I see your posts all the time, man. And
oh my gosh, it's all I want to do
jealous,
right now.
Man.
I haven't even skied yet this year.
Really?
Kind of crazy. Like I mean that it's the end of December and I haven't even skied. Like it's pretty crazy. I am fully hooked on fishing right now. Oh
but you've been doing some winter fishing then, huh?
Yeah. Yep. Learning. You know, it's like I'm mainly a dry fly fisherman, so like all summer, like if there's an opportunity to do dries, that's what I'm throwing. So this is my first time like really like committed to like nymphing. So I'm catching fish. I'm catching fish.
That's all that matters.
It doesn't feel right. Like there's so many times I'm like, I don't think I'm doing this right. You know, and then I'll catch. You know, I always catch them like on the swing or like when I'm getting ready to cast it again. You know, I'm like, oh god, there's a fish on. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really what I want to be doing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love fishing. Or I still love fishing.
See, it's not even
say skiing. No, I still love skiing, and I'm gonna be getting out. But right now, like I'm pretty excited about it.
That's
and
awesome.
luckily, we live same thing. It's like we live in a place where
skip, and a jump away from so many places to go.
Exactly. There's not I talk to friends like, out of Colorado and Europe and everything. They're like, you can fish for trout in the winter. It's like, yep. It's like
a lot of our streams are still flowing and rivers and stuff like that.
And a lot of them are like regulated. There's like a trout season, you know,
right?
And that this is just year round. I didn't really even know that. I'm like, oh yeah, you can't like fish trout where you are. It's like no. But yeah, fly fisherman for sure. Like I'm going to Mexico in March. Gonna do some like saltwater floats.
Oh really?
Never done that, so I'm excited to do that. And I had a trip planned to go to Slovenia like in April this past year.
It's pretty epic.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Like
I've never fished up there, but we've done some shows like just these off beaten path like festivals, and the people are so cool. And
and it's like it's cheap, and I hear the people are amazing, the food, the whole experience. The Julian Alps, I guess it's just pretty epic. We'd be fishing. It's called the Soka River Valley.
Okay.
You can fish these it's called marble trout. So I was just looking at a picture. It's a buddy who goes over there. He has.
We actually have a fan base of listeners in Italy.
Oh really?
That are big fly fishermen. Yeah, and they're constantly sending us pictures and stuff like that. And I'm like, God, I'm gonna make it over there at some point.
I know. Well, I think about that a lot. It's like I've traveled a bunch in my life, like tons of ski travel, and then in the off season, it's like I'd go to the beach, like
Sure.
and I love the ocean. I mean, I promised myself that when I first started Icelandic, I was like, I'll work my ass off 11 months. I'm going to take a month and go to the beach, unplug and just, enjoy it, surf and or sail and swim, whatever. It's so important. So I've definitely invested in, recreational travel, over my life. But now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna start doing this for fishing,
Right.
I'm gonna start go to Patagonia, go to wherever, go to Mexico, go to.
Have you ever thought
Sardinia.
about building a surfboard or shaping it?
I actually
board or
did.
something?
I got the opportunity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a guy this was like a couple years ago. It was such a cool process. Like, I loved it. I was working with this guy on a binding project that we were trying to bring to market, and he just randomly called me like one day and was like, hey, would you ever be interested in like shaping a surfboard? I'm like, yeah. He's like, come on down. He lives where is it exactly? Like off 285 and Broadway, somewhere down in there. I can't remember what that area is called, but or is it actually it's Littleton. He's in Littleton, and the shop is in Old Town Littleton.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it was a stand-up paddle shop that this guy.
I got big into stand-up paddle living in Hermosa Beach.
Yeah, it's
still addicted to it.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a great sport as well. But this guy built the shop, and my buddy Kyle talked the guy into letting him frame out a little shaping room. So it's like this 10 by 10 square box for shaping surfboards, and it's so cool how he lit it. All of it is about the lighting, where you can turn the lights on just to see how symmetrical it is and just how the shape's coming. And I appreciated that so much. I was like, this is just such a beautiful process. So yeah, I mean, it started just with the big block of styrofoam, and we came up with concepts. He's like, what do you kind of want? And I'm like, I'm not the best surfer by any means. It's like I've been able to ride the line and whatever. So I'm like, I want to find a good transitional board. I don't need an 8-footer.
Yeah.
So I made it's like a 6'8", 6'10". So it's about a foot taller than me.
Sure.
And nice thick. It's a thick board. And then it was cool because he was teaching me more about the just the kind of the rocker profiles and just the shape underneath it. So we have kind of single rocker that transitions in this double.
So were you
rocker.
able to put some of your art on it and stuff?
And then I was. Yeah, it's
that's
so
epic,
cool.
man.
I'll show you a picture of it
Yeah.
here. It turned out really cool.
I mean, that's what I love about the Boardwork stand-up paddle boards is they're kind of like that Eskimo styles type.
Yep.
Or they used to a couple years ago.
Totally.
And they brought this whole art element to that industry too.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing.
Yeah, I found because I was looking at how to do it because Parr, our artist, he had done some work with Rusty surfboards.
Okay.
And it was more like these one-off showcases that they were doing where they'd pair a shaper with an artist to create art for the board. So he would they'd literally send him the shaped foam blank, and then he would apply the art, and then they'd glass over it. So I was like, all right, how could I do this? I was kind of looking at rice paper, could I print some on rice paper and put it in? But then I found a company in Cali, I think it was in Huntington, and it's called Board Lambs, and they could print directly onto the fiberglass.
Oh,
so
really?
It's amazing. The quality is top notch. I mean, it is so vibrant.
So is that a stand-up paddleboard or strictly a surfboard?
They could print it for either. So
Yeah.
I just send them the specs. I'm like, here's what it is, and then I just designed the graphic to the size that they needed. And, it was a big rectangle, too. So,
Yeah.
so you could do it. Yeah, they make them for SUPs as well. You can do it for anything, and it's amazing, the quality. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, I took one of my favorite graphics. It's a weird-ass graphic, but...
So are we going to see an Icelandic paddleboard someday, you think?
Well, you know what? We actually... Parr, our artist, is making some right now.
Really?
It's actually one of our accounts, so one of our shops up in actually in Calgary, in Canada. And it's called Mountain Cultures. And Jay from Mountain Cultures pretty much called us up and called Parr. He's like, what do you guys think? He's like, would you care if we worked with Parr? I'm like, hell no. They almost called him Parr Sups. I'm like, hell yeah, buddy, do it.
Yeah.
They were asking me to help them with sales and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I don't have any bandwidth.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry. I'll give you my opinions, but I'm not going to be able to execute. But so they started doing some. We're selling them.
Really?
We actually sell them down in Golden. I
No
think we're
shit.
sold out right now. They're on pre-order, so I think by the summer we should have some.
Cool. I'll have to come check that out.
Check them out.
Yeah.
They're great. Inflatable. Perfect.
Oh, they're
for here.
inflatable too,
Yep, it's
even
the
better.
inflatable ones, and
I made
comes
the
with
move.
whole
I
kit.
sold all my hardboards when I moved back here
They're
just
a
because.
pain. Yeah.
we have the little camper, and it's so much easier with the inflatables and rocks and stuff like that. You're not dealing with a beach and the sand anymore, you know, so it's like...
And just to be able to take them in a river, too, it's like so fun just to be able to float.
Epic. Yeah, super cool, man. That's awesome. So what's next for Icelandic? I mean, you guys got a ton of stuff going on. It's bigger than it's ever been, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really good. It's like we're kind of having those conversations right now. It's like, what are the next steps? We've built a sustainable company, like...
You guys have a whole clothing line now, right?
Yeah.
Of just like fashion.
Yeah, that's me 100%. Like I'm designing like from the ground up, sourcing, working with pattern makers, doing design, like manufacturing. That's my biggest
after
focus
the
right now.
podcast because I want some quality merch.
Yeah.
For the mountainside.
Oh, I can help you build. Yeah, for sure. Like that's not a
cool.
question. So like truthfully, that's where my energy is going to be the rest of this year. Is just kind of like continuing to shape what that is. About 2 years ago, this was our second summer doing it. In the summers we started doing it. We're calling it Mountain Swim. So we've been talking for a while. Like, okay, what should we do in the summer? The ski industry is so seasonal.
Sure.
And it's a combination of building to demand, not overproducing, because the ski it's really one of the only industries that after 6 months, how much a product devalues after a 6 months cycle is crazy.
Insane, right?
You lose all your margin. The dealers lose all their margin if they quote unquote want to compete. So the selling cycle is so low. So it's like we can't be overproducing. It's like we need to be selling stuff at full price and make sure everyone's making their margin. So it's like, how do we counter that or balance that? And we've done that through some different things. We just released a national parks collection, which is going to be crushing. Yeah, we came up with that idea, and we just launched it just like a few weeks ago in December, and it's crazy. It is going off. So we made skis, apparel, accessories, a bunch of stuff. And this year we did Rocky Mountain National Park, and we give 15% back to the park itself.
Oh, that's even better, man.
Yeah, and it's cool because we're working specifically with the park, like that specific one. So each year we're going to introduce a new park to the collection and continue with the Rocky Mountain, so it's not going to be like 1 year and done. It's going to just build, year after year. And
cool. Let us know what we can do to help you here, man. We'd be glad to be a voice for it,
I'll start by getting you a shirt.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
Just you start by smarting it. Totally. But yeah, so we're thinking differently on that side. We're doing a lot of special stuff with musicians. We did a ski with Fish's artist last year, Pollock. That went crazy. So, kind of looking at things that people are passionate about, that we could, create special type edition skis that hold their margin year after year, and and allows us to protect our inline product, so we can continue to produce
and give back to national parks.
Oh yeah, and that's the cool part. Every one of our special edition ones, there's a give back option. So we have a 10th Mountain Division one, and the national parks. We have
really?
one
That's
for
cool.
Shark. We did one for Shark Week this year. That was a random one. Our artist, he literally called me on Thursday.
Yeah.
He just goes, "You want to make some money?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, and he just sent me this graphic, and it's just awesome, great white shark, and he's like, "Shark Week starts on Monday, can we get this out?" And we got the whole team together, and we executed it in 3 days and launched it. It was a pre-order, so but we just got all the assets together, and it crushed. And then 15% go to Surf Riders Foundation. So there's always a give back to these special edition things, and but it's showing us that though there's this short selling cycle in our industry that people are trained to purchase on. Sure. We've seen that when we do have product available, people are buying it. People are coming into the store in Golden, all that different stuff. Even just looking at the website, we're sold out so many times, but it was we'd have that 10th Mountain ski, and we're people are buying this in the middle of summer. So it's how can we have
so does that give available? Back to the 10th Mountain Special Forces down in
exactly. Yeah, this is the foundation, so we're working with them on a separate level. But we also work directly with the military, so we have a full military contract too,
providing skis,
actual equipment.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been real. That's been a cool. That's what kept the factory open during COVID. It's we literally got a letter from the Pentagon saying you can't shut down. So it allowed us to just maintain production. We shut down for about 2 weeks, but we were able to open back up, and it was a lifesaver. Yeah. So we're making them for all the Marines right now. And it's a cool system. I mean, we developed our entire ski binding system. So it's a full kit that we're giving them, and we just really thought outside the box. It was about a 5-year project to get the contract, but it's been
wow.
Yeah, it's a 5-year contract, and it's worth it.
That's so cool,
Yeah, totally.
man.
No marketing.
Yeah.
We talk about that. We're like, God, this is awesome. Like, no marketing, cash. Like, there's zero cash flow impact because how they pay their terms. Like, it's pretty perfect. So
that's so awesome, man.
yeah. And then, sorry, I'll tie it right back in just to the swim stuff. So, we're thinking differently about the ski product, but then in the summer, we're like, all right, what should we do? Like, we'd done some just like basic apparel. And we need stuff just because we have a retail space too. So it's like, all right, we could bring in other.
Need riverwear, man, because I feel like board shorts and stuff don't really cut it.
Totally.
Like,
that's exactly the strategy. So like we were thinking about it, I was like, all right, and being in Golden, we have the river right there. So like we are always tubing, swimming in that river in the summer, like every day, literally. It's like we'll go down there and just take a dip. We bring a bunch of our dealers out like on Wednesdays or something, and we all tube and get pizza and beer or whatever. And so we're like, God, this is good. And so we're like, what should we do? And we're like, let's do like, I just started thinking about the swim market and how everything is marketed ocean surf, like even Patagonia, like and I get it, like there's a lot of people that live in those locations, but it's also like aspirational. Like people want to be a part of that, they want to be a part of that culture and everything. And I was like, God, I think the mountains have that same type of a effect. So, so we came up with this whole concept of creating mountain swimwear. And it's a combination of really focusing on rivers, alpine lakes, cliff jumping, hot spring, sup, that
That's
type
perfect,
of experience floating, just float in the river.
I love that company NRS. They make awesome shoes and knives, and it's just
and
super. Yeah, river conscious type.
Exactly. And it's been interesting too, because over the years, we've definitely tried things that just didn't align. Like for a couple years, we tried making ski boots. Terrible decision. Like I am a yes man, like, we're opening those offices in Europe. Bad decision. There's like a lot of different things where it's like, okay, like we're spending money. It's just not working. And this was one that just like fully aligned with our team. And I think one of the biggest things was like, we built the concept based on the pillars that we'd built the brand. So it was like, okay, we're going to focus on durability, get some good durable fabrics. We're going to make them all here in the States. We're going to always have artwork as a part of the storyline. We're going to tell an eco story, it's recycled. So like building it on these like pillars just fully integrates with our line, like with who we are as a brand. And it's been pretty fun. I mean, it's been successful. This is our second year. And we were nervous going into this year because it was like lockdown, it's like we were making those decisions. And it was like, luckily, we can turn it around. I mean, I turned this year's collection around in 2 months, like concept to market.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. So, especially in that clothing company, like I talked to designers, like we are, 26 months out, it's like crazy. But, I'm so glad. I'm like, we can scale it back a little bit in terms of the volume that we're producing. And, we got to come back for year 2 if it's going to be successful, just to like make it a consistent part of the brand or get our customers to recognize it or start expecting it. And, I
love that it's so much more than just swimwear. You know what I mean? Like you guys, like you said, you're building it on those pillars. You're building it to give back. You're building it to raise awareness. Like, that's what I love about your company, man.
Yeah, it's so good because people align with that, and we do too. I mean, that's the thing. It's like everything that we're doing is very genuine. We did a press release when we like just started our first year. So it was like we were doing the press release and we invited a bunch of press and we're going to like announce that we're doing swim. We had just hired this new girl, Hannah, to do our marketing. So she was pumped to like put together this press release. And I get up there to present. We had, we were doing like there's going to be a little like runway with the models and stuff. And I get up to like talk about it. And I get up and I start the whole talk. I just go, you all might be wondering why Icelandic is making swimwear. I'm like, it's obvious. We love to swim. Right? They're like, oh. And it's true. Awesome. It's true. So, yeah.
No, cheers to that, man.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the way that you guys raise awareness and create this culture and everything, we're very big about that here. That's the whole reason why I started this podcast, right?
Awesome.
What are some things that you see that happen in every day when you're out maybe you're on the ski slopes, maybe you're in the water? What are some things that people can do I kind of ask every guest this if it comes up and if the timing's right. What are some things that you notice that people could be doing better?
I think one of the first things is just start by appreciating it, truly appreciating that experience that you're having or the environment that you're in, because without that true appreciation, you're not going to do the harder things to protect it, So like, I think that appreciation part is the core value and the reason why you should be there for the first place, So like, I even just think about that with evergreen, it's like being an evergreen for 20 plus years. I mean, yeah, almost 30 years. It's like, I still appreciate it every day. You know what I mean? It's like,
right.
So just continuing that appreciation, I think is huge. And then, and then it's really just kind of like finding your best way to help protect that, whether that is through volunteer, whether it is through doing the things of like picking up trash when you see it on the ground, or if it's something of like, financial contributions, like that's a big piece. So like, there's a lot of different ways that you can work towards protecting it. But I think the root thing that you can do is genuinely appreciate it and use it for bettering yourself. You know what I mean? Like,
that's
it's
a really
such
good
a
point,
huge
man.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, I think all three of those things that you just said are key. And, I think that a lot of it comes down to education too. Don't be afraid to ask a question,
definitely.
Don't be afraid to hit us up, DM us on Instagram or something
Huge.
if there's something you want to know. And
Yep.
if we don't know the answer, we'll try to figure it out for you.
That is one of my, no matter what you're asking, I always say that. It's like, always ask. Like, and whether you're asking for something or asking for, whether that's an answer or something else, but it's like, the worst thing that can happen is when someone says no. You know what I mean? Like, that's not that bad. So like, ask questions, continue to learn, like I said, like, you want to, like, living is learning, so it's like, when you stop learning, you're going to die. So like, you're going to die.
It's all over.
Fact.
No, we know what you're saying.
But it's like, if you continue that process, like, ask questions.
Awesome.
Or research yourself, like whatever you're comfortable with. But there's no, ask questions for sure, and just continue to get educated.
For sure. Well, Ben, thank you so much for your time, man. We burned up almost an hour and a half here.
Nice.
We flew right through.
I flew through.
I feel like we could
finish my whiskey. I've been talking too much.
It's awesome, man. That's what we brought you here to do, was to talk to us, man. So, but yeah, man, we want to have you back. If there's anything that we can do to help you guys on, promote something you guys got going on or whatever, please let us know, man. And before we send you on your way, where can people find Icelantic? I know you guys have Instagram, Twitter, all that sort of stuff. If you want to drop those down, your website.
Perfect. Yeah, you can, our website, IcelanticSkis.com. So check that out for sure. Follow us on Insta, Facebook, but Insta is definitely the platform we're most consistent
awesome
with.
Photos on there. It's
it's fun.
I'm never not surprised when I open your guys'
Nice.
Insta. It's cool.
Yep. Yeah. And so that's Icelantic_skis. And then come visit us in Golden. We're right on, like I said, 13th and Calumet, right downtown. Really cool space. Cassidy, shop manager, or Sean, they'll meet you and greet you. And come check it out.
Awesome.
And thanks for the time. That's really fun.
You're welcome back anytime.
Totally.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate it.
Really good.
And Happy New Year, brother.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Definitely.
Everybody take it easy. Have a good one.